after my wife was in a car accident. Her memory returned to when she was 20. Back then she was completely love-struck. So deeply in love with me it was in her bones. Even if she had to live on instant noodles with me, she still insisted on marrying me. After she woke up, she looked at me in surprise and asked, "George, are we already married? Are we happy?" Her eyes were filled with the shy affection of a young girl. And she threw herself into my arms. Yet the very next second, I shoved her away. With a cold sneer, I said, "Happy? Oh, extremely happy. Not only did I catch you in bed with another man, you were going at it right in front of me." Chapter 1. Sorry, the number you have dialed cannot be reached. I stood at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, staring blankly at my phone screen. Just yesterday, my wife Willow, the chairwoman of Snowfall Group in a city, was passionately tangled in bed with her subordinate, Makoto. When I rushed to the hotel, not only did they not stop, they became even more intense. Willow didn't even bother to look at me directly, as if saying one more word to me was a luxury. "Willow, do you have any sense of shame at all? You owe me an explanation," I demanded angrily, but she pushed me away impatiently. "What the hell are you to me? Get lost. What am I? I'm your damn husband," she replied. "Let's get divorced. Be here at 9 tomorrow. Don't be late." After saying that, Willow walked away as if it were nothing. Thinking of it now, I took a hard drag of my cigarette. Yet for the first time in a long while, I felt an unexpected sense of relief. Willow and I had been childhood sweethearts, growing up together without a single secret between us. 10 years ago, right after graduation, she confessed to me and swore she would follow me for the rest of her life, through poverty or wealth. Because of that promise, I gave up my dream of becoming a designer and did everything in my power to start a business alongside her. We came from ordinary families. Every step we took required unimaginable effort. But after she achieved success, she gradually became more arrogant and more promiscuous. Power, wealth, desire. The path between Willow and me grew farther and farther apart. First endless arguments. Then nights she wouldn't come home. In order to retaliate against me for being too controlling, she not only kicked me out of the company, but also transferred the assets that were supposed to belong to me. "George, you're not in the same league as me anymore. Stay away from me. You disgust me." Yet Willow seemed to forget. Everything she has today, at least half of it is because of me. All these years I worked diligently, gave everything to my job, stayed loyal in love, and devoted all I had to Willow. And now that she had power, she discarded me like a stray dog. People change. She no longer has any feelings for me. In her eyes, I'm nothing but a tasteless burden. Fortunately, all the humiliation I endured was finally released the moment I caught her cheating, because at last, I had a legitimate reason to break free from Willow. After 9 o'clock today, we will have nothing to do with each other. All those eternal vows will fade like smoke in the wind. Chapter 2. It started drizzling again in a city. The couples coming and going all wore indifferent expressions. After waiting for half an hour, I finally received a call from Willow. I asked, "Hey, what's taking you so long? Don't even have time to get a divorce." But a strange woman's voice came from the other end. "Is this Mr. Wong? We're calling from the 3rd hospital. Your wife was just in a car accident." The unfamiliar female voice made my furrowed brows slowly relax. "What did you say? Willow was in a car accident? Ha ha ha, talk about karma. Is she badly hurt?" "Sir, you sound rather pleased." "MS. Lou suffered severe trauma to the brain and multiple abrasions," I replied. "That's wonderful. I'll be right there." I laughed and added, "Use whatever medication you have. Even if she dies, I won't hold you responsible." After hanging up, I drove straight to the hospital. Even the air on the road smelled sweet. At the thought of seeing Willow Lou in a miserable state, I couldn't stop the corners of my mouth from lifting. That woman was ruthless and had done every bad thing imaginable. Getting into a car accident was only fitting. The only thing that annoyed me was that it hadn't killed her. Half an hour later, as soon as I entered the hospital room, a woman blocked my way. "George, you still have the nerve to come. Do you know Willow's brain has been damaged?" The woman in front of me was Willow's best friend, Maria, who loved nothing more than trailing behind Willow like a loyal lackey. "What does that have to do with me?" I asked. "How does it not? If she hadn't insisted on driving herself to the Civil Affairs Bureau today to divorce trash like you, would this have happened?" I said with relief. "She drove herself. That's great. At least the driver wasn't hurt." I glanced into the room and asked, "Where's Willow?" "You heartless bastard. How dare you say that? Willow won't let you get away with this." Tired of Maria's rambling, I shoved past her and walked toward the VIP hospital bed. What came into view was Willow, her limbs wrapped in bandages, studying me with clear, limpid eyes. Her tone was strangely different. "George, how did you become like this?" "I became like this because of you," I replied. With a cold laugh, I added, "Looks like your brain really is damaged. You don't remember anything." She shook her head. No, I remember you. Suddenly, Willow grabbed my hand anxiously. George, my brain is perfectly fine. I'll remember your kindness for the rest of my life. You worked 3 part-time jobs alone during summer break just to help me pay my senior year tuition. You ate nothing but steamed buns and instant noodles every day. I remember all of it. Thank you. Hearing those words come from her mouth, I froze. I couldn't even remember the last time Willow had said thank you. At that moment, 2 doctors walked in. Mr. Wong, you're finally here. After preliminary examinations, we've determined that your wife's brain tissue has been damaged. She's experiencing partial amnesia. Her memory has regressed to 10 years ago. There's currently no way to restore her memory. We can only attempt rehabilitation training. I raised my hand to stop the doctor and looked at Willow suspiciously. How old are you this year? 20. Seeing the innocent look on her face, I felt a flicker of astonishment. In my mind, I could vaguely see the image of Willow from back then, pure and adorable, so starkly different from the refined, glamorous businesswoman she had become. Back then she had been so gentle and dependent, the love in her eyes nearly overflowing whenever she looked at me. But the more beautiful she had been in the past, the more disgusted I felt by who she was now. Hey. I curled my lips, snapped back to reality, and clapped slowly. Very good. Very good. As long as you haven't completely lost your memory, it won't delay the paperwork. Maria, looks like you're finally useful for once. Bring her to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Don't be late. At that moment, Willow suddenly jumped off the bed in panic and ran toward me, throwing her arms around me. George, where are you going? Don't leave me. What paperwork are we going to handle? Is it marriage registration? She looked at me with sparkling, expectant eyes, but in my heart, there was nothing but ashes and desolation. Chapter 3, I said. Not marriage paperwork, divorce paperwork. After hearing my words, Willow trembled all over and clutched her head. Ah. Her face turned pale, as if she had recalled something painful. The doctors hurried over to support her. The patient has been overstimulated. She needs proper rest. Maria rushed forward. Willow, are you okay? After helping Willow back onto the bed, Maria turned and blocked my way aggressively. George, are you even human? She's injured and you're still provoking her. What did I provoke her with? I said coldly. Why don't you ask Willow what she did? Was I the one who brought up divorce? Maria retorted self-righteously. No matter who brought it up. Willow is sick right now. Do you really have to rush into a divorce? What if it makes her condition worse? That has nothing to do with me, I replied. Right now, I just want to cut ties with Willow as soon as possible. I was about to leave, but Maria still refused to let me go. Stop right there. You're still her husband. Are you just going to walk away so irresponsibly? What? Am I supposed to stay and nurse her? I shot back. Ask your dear best friend. When I had a high fever and passed out, which nightclub was she in? Having the time of her life with some pretty boy. Maria grabbed at me, hair disheveled. Putting facts aside, don't you have any fault at all? In any case, you're not leaving today. You have to pay for this. At that moment, Willow, now awake, suddenly spoke up. This is none of your business. Let George go. Maria froze. Willow, you. With reddened eyes, Willow looked at me. If George hates me this much, it must be because I did something wrong. She continued softly. I think I understand what's going on. It seems George and I have been married for 10 years, but I've forgotten everything. We used to be so close. I must have done something wrong to make you angry. George, you're saying you want a divorce just to scare me, right? You want me to correct my mistakes, don't you? Looking at her sincere expression, I almost found it natural. After all, her memory was stuck at 20. She remembered nothing of the future. No one else existed in her world except me. So of course she assumed she must have done something wrong. But if she had always been like this, would we have ended up where we are now? The moment I thought of everything Willow had done, I chose to ignore her. Before anyone could react, I strode quickly out of the hospital room. The drizzle in a city continued, casting a hazy gloom over the sky. I drove back to the 80-square-meter apartment near the 3rd Ring Road and began packing my belongings. We bought this place when the company first turned a profit. Back then, Willow and I were comrades in arms, fighting side by side, in life and in business. George, do you remember? Our dream used to be buying a small villa. Now we've finally done it. Yay. At that time, Willow was 24. Aside from a hint of exhaustion on her face, she still carried the purity she once had. But in just 6 years, she had grown tired of this small place. The apartment's too small. I'm not used to it. I won't be coming back anymore. Luxury cars worth millions. An entire building in the city center. A standalone mansion. Willow had everything, and she began to grow tired of all the old things, including me. She started going out drinking and clubbing with her girlfriends. One personal trainer after another appeared on her WeChat. I used to get jealous. I used to secretly check her phone, and all that did was make her more and more annoyed with me. Chapter 4. Thinking back on the storms of the past few years, I stood in the empty villa, lost in thought. There was almost nothing Willow had left behind. Most of what remained belonged to me. The stuffed toy by the entryway cabinet was one we had won together at the mall. The succulents on the balcony were ones we had picked out from a street market and placed carefully on the carpet. The things I once treasured like priceless keepsakes were nothing but trash to her. The cozy little home we had built was now dilapidated and cold. I set aside the objects filled with memories and began packing my personal belongings. 2 years ago, confidential information from Willow's company was leaked, and she became increasingly paranoid by nature. Coupled with her fading feelings for me, she transferred all the assets away, even taking this house. In her words, she could give me money, but everything had to remain under her control for her to feel secure. Yet the very next day, I discovered she had bought a villa in the suburbs for a pretty boy. Back then, I naively convinced myself that Willow's need for control stemmed from love for me, and that the others were just flings. But as she kept playing around, I ended up catching her in bed with another man. Click, click. While I was lost in thought, the front door suddenly opened. A well-dressed young man walked in holding a bouquet of roses, keys in hand. He froze when our eyes met. I recognized him immediately, Makoto, the subordinate who had slept with Willow yesterday. Makoto frowned. "What are you doing here?" His expression gradually relaxed, and he arrogantly reversed the accusation. "Is this somewhere you're supposed to be?" I slowly wiped a glass and replied, "Shouldn't I be asking you that, pretty boy? How many times did you sleep with Willow to get this house?" "Watch your mouth." Makoto snorted coldly. "President Liu and I are truly in love. She has no feelings left for you. She's already divorced you. Don't think you're still the former vice president. Without President Liu, you're nothing." His words made me laugh. "When Willow and I bought this house, you were probably still playing in the mud somewhere. And you've got one thing wrong. Everything Willow has today, I gave it to her. She's the one who can't do without me. Understand? 10 whole years of my dedication meant nothing in everyone's eyes. Because Willow succeeded, I became the one living off her. Because I didn't fight or compete, I became the incompetent coward. Because I loved Willow and trusted Willow, I ended up with nothing. If only I had been more ambitious back then, more cautious, made fewer compromises, Willow would never have reached where she is today." Makoto laughed. "President Liu can't live without you. Are you dreaming?" He looked at me provocatively. "Let me tell you something. President Liu personally gave me the keys. I'm supposed to accompany her on a date here tonight. She divorces you in the morning and dates me in the afternoon. How much longer are you going to pretend you don't understand? If she had even a shred of you in her heart, if you had any real ability, would she have chosen to divorce you?" I spread my hands and sneered. "Believe whatever you want. Whatever happens between you and Willow has nothing to do with me anymore. But chances are, that date tonight isn't happening." "What did you say?" Makoto hadn't even processed my words when another sound of keys turning came from the door. Willow slowly pushed it open. Her clear eyes scanned the room in confusion as she asked, "SOSO, is this going to be my home from now on?" Chapter 5. The moment Willow walked in, Makoto immediately put on a smug expression. "Willow, you're finally here. Your ex-husband was bullying me just now. He even called me a pretty boy." But instead of defending him, Willow responded with a look of confusion. She had clearly completely forgotten the pretty boy she had favored only yesterday. What are you doing in my house?" Makoto froze. "Willow, weren't you the one who asked me to come? When did I ever ask you to come? Leave, now." Willow moved closer to me, wary and frightened. Like a startled deer, Makoto pointed at me. "Willow, weren't you and him?" Before he could finish, Willow stepped in front of me protectively. "Can't you understand? Get out, or I'm calling the police." I could see confusion and unwillingness flashing in Makoto's eyes, but he probably didn't dare defy Willow's command. He slowly retreated out the door. "Are you okay, George? Who was that just now?" Willow clung to my arm, her eyes full of concern. "Even though I don't remember who he is, I can feel he's hostile toward you. He must not be a good person." I nodded. "Yeah, you guessed right." I sneered inwardly. The bad person she spoke of had been intimate with her in bed just yesterday, but I had no interest in explaining any of that to her now. I just wanted to stay far away. With the personality of 20-year-old Willow, if she found out she had been keeping a pretty boy on the side, she would definitely cling to me and demand answers. Before I could speak, Willow hurried to say, "George, whatever happened before, I must have been in the wrong. I made you angry. Whenever I was sick before, you always stayed by my side and took care of me. This time you didn't come, so I must have hurt you. Can we make up, George?" Her pleading tone reminded me of the way she used to apologize and admit her mistakes. People always say women are emotional and need men to comfort them, but women who take the initiative to offer reconciliation and apologize sincerely are rare. Fortunately, I once had a girl like that. At 20, she was in the bloom of youth, elegant, thoughtful, willing to humble herself just to give me emotional comfort. Back then, it really was wonderful. Unfortunately, That girl had long since disappeared. Seeing her stand before me again like this left me momentarily dazed. Those innocent wide eyes, that coquettish plea. Any other men would probably have given in already. But Willow had hurt me too deeply. I had seen the disgust in her eyes before, sharp enough to pierce the heart, again and again grinding my love down to nothing. We'll talk about that later, I said. Seeing her limping slightly, I added, go back to the hospital and focus on recovering first. We'll discuss the next step after. It wasn't that I felt sorry for her. I was just afraid that if her injuries worsened, something unexpected might happen during the divorce and waste my time. For all I knew, her best friend would cling to me again and demand compensation. Okay. Willow's eyes brightened, as if she had mistaken my words for concern. Even though my tone was cold, she still found warmth in it. George, isn't this our home? Why are you packing? Where are you going? Oh, I'm going on a business trip, I replied casually, continuing what I was doing. You're even taking our keepsakes on a business trip. That means you still care about me. Willow grinned, her face even turning a little red. Suddenly remembering something, she trotted to the refrigerator. It's almost noon. Eat before you leave. I'll cook your favorite, stir-fried shredded pork with green peppers. Sure. I didn't refuse. I happened to be hungry anyway. I might as well treat it as a final farewell meal. Willow hadn't cooked in 2 or 3 years. Having her serve me this once wasn't so bad. Soon, she skillfully tied on an apron and began chopping vegetables, her movements smooth and practiced. George, when did we buy this house? I like it so much. 7 years ago. We picked the layout you liked. That's so nice. Thinking about how long we've lived together makes me feel so happy. Her face glowed with anticipation. George, we've been married so long. Do we have children? Are they in school already? Yes. My heart trembled slightly. But later, we didn't. She hesitated. Why? Ask your best friend. I don't want to talk about it. I turned my head away, sensing my displeasure. Willow quickly changed the subject. Best friend, you mean that woman named Maria? So she's my good friend. Though her mind was full of questions, her hands never stopped moving. From time to time, she secretly glanced at my reaction. The aroma of shredded pork drifted through the air, filling every corner of the living room. Chapter 6. As I inhaled that familiar aroma, scenes from the past instantly flooded my mind. Back then, Willow and I had agreed to take turns cooking, 1 day each. But every evening, dragging our exhausted bodies home, we would compete to make dinner, afraid the other might be too tired. Once, I casually praised her stir-fried shredded pork with green peppers. She ended up cooking it every day for an entire week. The food's ready. Come eat. Willow carried the dish over. She looked exactly like she had 10 years ago. If not for her now mature, womanly face, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Coincidentally, I had almost finished packing my things. I sat down and took a couple of bites. It tasted the same as before. Even though I hadn't eaten it in 2 or 3 years, the tongue doesn't lie. They say memory is complicated. Some of it is stored in the brain. Some of it is stored in the heart. Fragments of the past replayed in my mind like a film. Faintly, I could almost hear our youthful laughter beside my ears. To be honest, Willow's amnesia had completely caught me off guard. Last night, I had tossed and turned, thinking about how to end this relationship of more than a decade with dignity. I'm a mature person, a reasonable person. I didn't want to make things explode into chaos. If love is gone, it's gone. Letting go gracefully should be enough, especially after everything Willow had done to me. But fate played a cruel joke on me. She lost her memory for no reason, and it stopped exactly at the age when she loved me the most. I admit I once loved Willow. I loved the 20-year-old version of her, but she is shattered now. Even if you try to piece something broken back together, the cracks remain, false seams that can never become whole again. I'm not pathetic enough to immerse myself in an illusion. George, are you okay? Willow looked at me anxiously. Are you feeling unwell? I'll go buy you some medicine. No need. I quickly finished the last bite, grabbed my belongings, and headed for the door. But just as I reached it, Willow called out to me. George, wait. She slowly walked over, then suddenly wrapped her arms tightly around me. I have to go, I said coldly. Her eyes reddened. George, you look so worn out. Is it because I've been unreasonable all the time and exhausted you? I must not have been sensible enough. I made you worry for 10 whole years. I feel so guilty. I didn't answer. I gently removed her hands. George, you're not really going on a business trip, are you? Willow stared at me as tears streamed down her face. What did I do wrong? Can you just tell me? Why won't any of you tell me what I did wrong? I can change for you. I'd do anything. You can't change. My voice was so cold it startled even me. Why? Because you cheated and I caught you myself. What? Willow looked as though she had been struck by lightning, staggering back several steps, but after only 3 seconds, she steadied herself and laughed firmly. Ha ha, that's impossible. George, you're still angry at me, aren't you? That's why you're saying this on purpose. But I know my own heart. How could I cheat? That's impossible. There's no reason for me to. Willow stepped forward and wrapped her arms around my neck. George, do you know how much I love you? I dream about being with you. Even just imagining marriage feels like a luxury. I would never cheat. I wouldn't care whether you're rich or poor, whether your personality is good or bad. I love only you. George, in this lifetime, I would never give myself to a second person. Listening to her resolute tone, I asked with self-mockery, are you sure? Absolutely. Chapter 7. The moment Willow finished answering, she suddenly broke down, burying her face in my chest as she sobbed uncontrollably. That familiar warmth seeped back into my heart. Instinctively, I wanted to stroke her hair, but I stopped myself, because I knew that warmth was nothing more than a bubble. Willow's love right now was like boiling water bubbling over. No matter how intense, it would vanish in an instant. 10 years ago, she had said the exact same thing to me. And what was the result? The deeper the promise, the harsher the wound. I will never forget the first time we argued because of another woman, when I confronted her about being involved with someone else. The disgust in her eyes. She had said, George, have I given you too much face? Who I spend money on is none of your business. I'm surrounded by men. If you don't like it, go cool off somewhere else. Stay away from me. Just looking at your useless face makes me sick. She had grabbed a cup and hurled it at me, splitting open my brow and leaving blood running down my face. Crash. The sharp sound of shattering glass snapped me out of the memory. The hateful expression I had just recalled on Willow's face was now replaced by panic and guilt. I'm sorry. You didn't look well. I was just trying to get you some water. The amnesiac Willow crouched down, picking up shards of glass with her bare hands. Looking at her like that, I suddenly saw a reflection of my former self, humble, pitiful, clinging. Sure enough, in love, the more humble you are, the more you bleed. My hands haven't fully recovered from the car accident, so I couldn't hold the cup steady. It's all my fault. She brushed aside her bangs. So anxious she looked ready to kneel. 10 years of marriage and I still can't do anything right. No wonder you want to divorce me. Sob. George, please don't leave. Don't abandon me. I can give you everything. I crouched down and helped her to her feet. Get up. Her eyes widened. You're not leaving. I'm not leaving. She hesitated. Then, are we still getting divorced? No. What? I'm not dreaming, am I? Willow looked overwhelmed with disbelief, but a smile uncontrollably formed on her lips. I forced a smile in response, while inside my mind had already begun calculating. She had just said, even if she had to give me everything, she would. So I changed my mind. After everything this woman had done to me, I couldn't just walk away like that. I had to take back everything I had wasted on her all these years, my energy, my feelings, my money, every last bit. To avoid arousing her suspicion, I even made up a reason. Willow, to be honest, we've argued a lot over the years. I've thought it over, and maybe divorce was too impulsive. How about this? You prepare a gift for me, and I'll completely forgive you. Okay. Willow agreed almost immediately. Wiping away her tears, I thoughtfully escorted her back to the hospital. Seeing my sudden change in attitude, the attending physician and nurses looked puzzled. Willow, where did you go? We've been looking everywhere for you. Maria hurried over anxiously, then froze when she saw me. Willow said, I went to find George. She looked Maria up and down. George said you're my best friend now, but I don't remember you at all. Maria forced a smile. That's okay. I'll tell you everything slowly. Let's get back to bed. I poured your medicine already. Have you eaten? Willow shook her head. No need. From now on, George will take care of me. You should go home and rest. It was obvious Willow didn't trust Maria. She found an excuse to send her away. Chapter 8. After I fed her the medicine, Willow drifted back into a deep sleep, between running around and dealing with everything. Evening arrived before I knew it. Looking at her sleeping face, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of worry. What if she woke up and remembered everything? My entire plan would fall apart. George, Maria gestured for me to step outside. In the hallway, my lungs started itching again. I lit a cigarette and asked, what is it? She narrowed her eyes at me. Why are you suddenly so kind? Actively taking care of Willow. Go on. She pressed. What are you plotting? What kind of question is that? I chuckled. We're not divorced yet, legally. I'm obligated to take care of her. Got a problem with that? Maria stared at me warily. Stop pretending. When you and Willow were fighting over the company shares before, you weren't exactly innocent. Let me warn you, she continued coldly. I'll be watching you closely. Don't even think about touching Willow's assets. I exhaled a long stream of smoke, feeling a deep weariness settle in. If reclaiming what's rightfully mine counts as scheming, I said flatly, then this world is truly absurd. Don't act like Willow is some saint. In her eyes, you're nothing more than a maid. Shut up, Maria snapped. Don't try to drive a wedge between us. Just remember this, if anything happens to Willow, I won't let you off. With that, She stormed off in her high heels. At the end of the corridor, she brushed past another woman. They exchanged a brief glance before Maria disappeared around the corner. The woman walked toward me, holding a stack of documents and adjusting her glasses. "George, here's the information you asked for." "Thanks," I said with a faint smile, flicking away my cigarette. "Long time no see." Still just as capable, and just as good-looking. The fair-skinned woman in large glasses was Anna, my junior from the law department back in university. We met through a campus club. We had once shared the same dream of becoming designers, but for various reasons, both of us gave it up. A few years ago, I had consulted Anna about company matters. When Willow found out, she warned me not to contact her again. Since then, I hadn't. But after Willow's accident, I told Anna everything. "Well, of course," Anna smiled, dimples appearing on her cheeks. "If George asks for something, I have to get it done properly." She flipped open the file. "Your wife's methods are quite impressive. She arranged for the assets to be transferred again every 8 hours, even with your authorization. I couldn't track them, but fortunately, in this 8-hour window, there was no movement. I managed to compile a complete breakdown." I nodded, satisfied. "Good. What's the total?" "With my current leverage," she replied, "I can transfer about 70 million yuan into your name in the short term." She tapped the papers. "Besides that, your wife holds 51% of the shares in Snowfall Group. Based on current market value, that's roughly 1.9 billion yuan. I asked, "How fast can this be done?" "At least 1 week." Anna paused thoughtfully. "During this 1-week reflection period, she must continuously confirm that the transfer is voluntary and cannot revoke it. Will there be any issue on her side?" I answered confidently, "No problem. 1 week is enough. Once it's done, you'll receive the original agreement, 2% commission." "Yay." Anna cheered softly, grinning at me, still childish as ever. I laughed lightly. "Be at Snowfall Group tomorrow. We'll deal with the shares first." "No problem," she replied brightly. "Mission guaranteed." Chapter 9. After saying goodbye to me, Anna skipped away cheerfully. It was hard to imagine that a woman in her late 20s could still preserve such innocence. Unlike me, unlike Willow, she hadn't been corroded by life, nor stained by the wrong kind of love. Back in the hospital room, I made do for the night on the small cot beside Willow's bed. She had her floor changed 3 or 4 times during the night, probably because of the brain injury. She slept deeply the entire time, until early the next morning. Her phone exploded with calls. Her secretary, assistants, department heads, and shareholders were panicking like ants on a hot pan. Willow had once said that unless she had been unreachable for 12 hours, no one was allowed to contact her. She hated being disturbed. Ring, ring, ring. Just as Willow hung up one call, the door swung open and a sharply dressed woman walked in. "President Liu, why didn't you inform anyone about your accident? The group has countless matters waiting for your approval." Willow's eyes widened. "The group? Approval?" Half an hour later, we arrived at the Snowfall Group headquarters. The entire office floor was filled with tense, questioning stares. Willow looked nervous and instinctively hooked her arm around mine. The secretary whispered beside her, "President Liu, don't reveal your memory loss. Maintain your executive authority." Willow cleared her throat twice, forced her expression cold, and deliberately furrowed her brows. "What are you all looking at? Get back to work." The employees scattered immediately, stunned as they watched Willow walk into the office, arm in arm with me. Back when I was still vice president, Willow and I fought constantly in this building. Every argument was earth-shaking, like thunder rolling across the entire floor. Even standing nearby felt dangerous, and now she was walking and holding my arm. If I were one of the employees, I'd think I was dreaming. Once the office door closed, the secretary quickly said, "President Liu, that wasn't fierce enough. Not convincing. If others sense something unusual, they may band together and attempt a power grab." Willow blinked. "Then, how should I act?" "More ruthless, more emotionless." "Ruthless, emotionless." Willow thought for a moment, puffed out her cheeks, and made an exaggerated angry face, like this. The secretary rubbed her forehead awkwardly. "Maybe, just don't make any expression at all, until your memory returns. I'll explain all work matters in detail. You just need to follow my lead." Willow wasn't foolish. She looked at the secretary cautiously. "Why should I trust you? You're only my secretary." The woman immediately lowered her head. "President Liu, you pulled me out of hell. How could I ever harm you? Back then, I was drowning in debt at another company, treated like a slave and constantly threatened by my boss. You tore ties with them and paid to free me. I've followed you for 5 years. I already see you as my own sister." After I gave a slight nod, Willow finally relaxed and trusted her capable assistant. Soon, stacks of documents were placed before her. The 20-year-old Willow was still in the stage of writing her graduation thesis. Faced with mountains of financial reports, her head nearly exploded. "George," she murmured while flipping pages, So this is what it feels like to be the boss. Thank you for helping me achieve my dream. As she signed contracts worth millions, she couldn't help saying, "You must have loved me very much to start a business with me. Half of this group belongs to you." "Yes," I replied softly. She looked up. "Then what position did I arrange for you?" I smiled. "I used to be vice president, but now, you fired me." "What?" Willow looked embarrassed. "Secretary. Immediately reinstate George as vice president." The secretary glanced at me with surprise, but not daring to disobey Willow's order. She nodded and stepped out to make arrangements. Like a little girl, Willow peeked through the crack of the office door to make sure no one was listening, then ran back and grabbed my hand. "George, you were angry because of this, right? I've brought you back now. From now on, we can go to and from work together every day, okay?" "Of course," I said lightly. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Inside, I was quietly pleased. I had originally planned to maneuver my way back into position step by step. Instead, it had fallen into place effortlessly. Chapter 10. After reclaiming my position as vice president, I once again had the authority to intervene in internal group affairs, especially with Willow standing firmly on my side. Within half an hour of resuming my post, before HR had even issued the official announcement, I was already gathering internal data to prepare for the share transfer. I didn't know when Willow might regain her memory. Time was everything. "What are you doing here?" Makoto blocked my path. After looking me up and down, a mocking smile spread across his face. Well, if it isn't the former Vice President Wong, what brings you to my department?" I sneered. "Makoto, I'm here to review shareholder data. You're not qualified to stop me." His expression darkened. "Who the hell do you think you are? In this company, only President Liu has the authority to enter here, not some useless ex she dumped." A few employees inside the office snickered along. "Supervisor, no need to argue with him. Just call President Liu and ask." Makoto let out a dry laugh. "Exactly. You don't even need me to deal with you. An outsider trying to interfere with group equity. President Liu won't go easy on you. She didn't seem in a good mood yesterday. Must have had a rough time." "Huh? Enough nonsense," I said coldly. "Move." I swept a cold glance across the management team inside the office, anger simmering in my chest. These people had once been my hand-picked core staff. Now they had all turned with the wind, groveling behind Makoto. They had witnessed the loving scenes between Willow and me. They had also witnessed her ruthlessly kicking me aside. Thinking about it, I almost found it laughable. After over a decade of dedication, I was left without a single trustworthy person by my side. "George, I heard you've been rehired. No wonder you're feeling bold." Makoto clearly hadn't taken yesterday's incident seriously. In his mind, he still believed he held first place in Willow's heart. "You useless piece of trash still want to fight me? Don't overestimate yourself. President Liu won't favor you again. Stop clinging to her." His voice was loud enough to draw nearly half the office. Employees gathered around, eager for drama. Just as Makoto was strutting arrogantly, Willow appeared in the corridor with her secretary. After some coaching, she had managed to replicate the cold, detached expression of her 30-year-old self. "I have an announcement." She stood straight, voice firm, effective immediately. "George will serve as vice president of the group. His orders are my orders." Silence. Shock rippled across every face. Makoto's complexion turned ashen. That's impossible. President Liu, didn't you?" Silence. Willow cast him a sharp glance. "Do I need your instructions regarding my own decisions? Pack your things and leave immediately." I pointed toward several managers in the room. "Those few as well. Ungrateful opportunists don't deserve to sit in those positions." Willow nodded coolly. "You, all of you, leave." Just one look from her was enough to paralyze them. Two of them scrambled toward me, apologizing desperately, begging for mercy. But if I could be this ruthless toward Willow, what were they to me? Those who kick someone when they're down deserve no forgiveness. Makoto carried his box out of the office, casting a resentful glare at me, as if he wanted to devour me whole. Just 2 days ago, he had held Willow in his arms and flaunted his victory before me. Little did he know, I had never wanted to compete over spoiled meat. The rest of the employees hurried back to their desks, sitting stiffly, afraid of being implicated. After obtaining the data I needed, I found an excuse to send the secretary away. Then I arranged for Anna to enter the group. Soon enough, the cunningly smiling woman walked in with her documents. "President Liu, President Wong." Willow blinked. "And this is?" "My lawyer," I replied calmly. "She's here to handle some legal matters within the company. You don't remember everything right now. Just follow my lead." "Okay." Willow nodded obediently and began signing the documents. To prevent any unexpected reversal, Anna recorded the entire process on video, just in case Willow later attempted to retract her consent. To be honest, I was still uneasy. Who knew if Willow might suddenly regain her memory and turn around to sue me instead? Chapter 11. After a while, I realized I had overthought things. There was no need for excuses or persuasion. Willow trusted me almost unconditionally. She didn't even read the contract. Words like voluntary gift and equity transfer were skipped over entirely. When she reached the final page, she finally seemed to notice something unusual. She had spotted my name. To her right now, only the name George could draw attention. George, the transferee here is you. Is that okay? Of course it's okay. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. I smiled gently and affectionately patted her head. But suddenly, her expression twisted in pain. George, my head hurts. She clutched her head, shaking it slightly. That was when I remembered. Those were the vows we made at our wedding. I still remembered that day, the master of ceremonies asking the routine questions on stage. Willow had grown impatient, snatched the microphone, and looked at me with deep affection. George, you are the most important person I've ever met in my life. Forget poverty or illness, even if the world ends, I will never leave you. You saved my life. From now on, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. It seemed she was recalling that very moment. I quickly patted her back. Willow, are you okay? Do you feel unwell? I'm fine. She endured the pain, picked up the pen, and prepared to sign the last line. George, I'll finish this right away. I won't delay you. I feigned reassurance. It's all right. Do you want to rest for a bit? Just then, Maria burst through the door. George, I knew you were up to something. Damn, my heart clenched. What are you doing here? I asked coldly. Here to expose you, of course. Maria strode over to Willow. Willow, this man is trying to transfer your assets. Don't believe him. To my surprise, Willow looked even more flustered than I was. You're not allowed to talk about George like that. Why you have any proof? Maria pointed at the contract on the desk. Look at it yourself. It must say something terrible. Willow stood firmly on my side. Stop trying to drive a wedge between George and me. I already felt something was off about you. From the moment I woke up, you kept speaking badly about George. If we argued before, it was probably because you stirred things up in the middle. Do you think I'm stupid? I know exactly how good George has been to me. Maria was furious. I'm doing this for your own good. Do you remember how you used to curse George? Think carefully. If this continues, you'll be swindled until you have nothing left. Willow shot back. George would never deceive me. Leave now, or I'll call security. Seeing Willow so firm, Maria rushed forward and shoved the contract directly in front of her face. I tried to stop her, but it was too late. Look at what this says, Maria shouted. It transfers all of Snowfall Group's shares to George, and nearly 30 million in personal assets, plus 20 million worth of real estate. Idiot. You may have amnesia, but you can still read, can't you? She turned to me and roared. George, what do you have to say for yourself? But in the next second, Willow pushed her away. Don't you dare shout at him. With reddened eyes, Willow said, do you think I don't understand? George fought alongside me for so many years. Everything I have today is because of his effort. What's mine is his. Isn't it only right to give him this much? Chapter 12. Maria steadied herself, stunned. You. Willow's voice turned firm. Do you even know what happened after my family fell apart when I was in college? Creditors waited at the school gate every day. George fought them for me. He was slashed and covered in blood. He almost died. She spoke each word clearly. Do you know how much George took care of me? He was closer to me than my own brother. He never allowed anyone to bully me. He even gave up his dream for me. Now I have everything, and he has nothing. That's not fair. All I want is him. I don't care about the money at all. I stared silently at the contract on the desk. Maria's face had gone pale. What are you staring at? Willow snapped. Leave. If you drive George away, I'll never forgive you. Her voice trembled as if she were about to cry. Afraid I might disappear, she rushed forward and wrapped her arms tightly around me. I froze for a moment, then held her back, but the place where my heart should have warmed remained cold. Maria fled in humiliation. Behind her, Anna subtly flashed me an okay sign and began organizing the documents. It's fine now, I murmured, gently soothing Willow. I just didn't want you mishandling the assets. You don't remember anything right now. If something went wrong, I understand. I understand everything. Willow lifted her face toward me like a child waiting for praise. How could you ever harm me? You're the most important person in my life. You can take all of it if you want. I don't care. Just don't leave me. She searched my eyes. George, you won't leave me, right? I hesitated, and caught sight of Anna behind her, subtly raising 7 fingers. 7 days. The transfer required a 1-week confirmation period. Willow still had value to me. I couldn't afford to tear everything apart now. Of course I won't, I replied without pause. I even feigned hurt surprise. Why would you think that? Have I not given you enough security? No. Willow quickly changed the subject. It's almost noon. Let's go eat. All right. We found a Western restaurant downstairs in the office building. As Willow browsed the menu, she was as cautious as ever. repeatedly checking the prices. Watching her careful expression, my memory drifted back 10 years. Back then, we had just scraped our way into internships. The coins in our pockets barely made a sound when they clinked together. Whenever something worth celebrating happened, passing an interview, receiving our first paycheck, Willow would insist we eat Western food. She would always order a small steak, then claim she had a small appetite and give half to me. Until one day, I caught her staring at an advertisement for steak, practically drooling. My heart nearly shattered. Wasn't 20 beautiful? That was when Willow loved me, and loved me the most. George. After studying the menu for a long time, she leaned closer and whispered, "Why is steak so expensive here? Let's eat somewhere else." I chuckled softly. "President Lou, did you forget? We're rich now. Order whatever you like. And prices have gone up quite a bit in 10 years. Realization dawned on her. "Oh, you're right." With a bold wave of her hand, she ordered one of every type of steak, for me. For herself, she chose a simple pasta. We ordered 2 glasses of red wine and clinked them instinctively. "Being rich feels amazing," she sighed. "I really hope this dream never ends." I nodded. "Yeah, me too." She was afraid that if the dream ended, I would disappear. I was afraid that if the dream ended, the money would. It was hard to imagine the fury Willow would unleash once she realized her wealth was gone. But that would no longer concern me. Just 7 days. In 7 days, I would leave this city and escape the demon who had tormented me for 10 years. In 7 days, I would become a billionaire. And Willow would lose everything, her wealth, her career, her love. As long as nothing went wrong during these 7 days, my future would be as dazzling as I pleased. Chapter 13. Thinking of this, I almost burst out laughing. When Willow saw me smiling, she foolishly laughed along with me. After dinner, I escorted Willow back to the hospital. During the entire trip, I kept my eyes on our surroundings, terrified that some kind of accident might trigger her memory to return. To truly put my love into action, I deliberately bought a huge assortment of fruit bowls and personally fed Willow while she was on her 4-drip, bite after bite, filled with fake sweetness and happiness. At 20, Willow loved me the most. Even though my looks were no longer youthful, even though my personality was no longer as bold and high-spirited as before, she was still completely infatuated with me. And after so many years of understanding her, I could easily grasp her heart and manipulate her emotions, driving her utterly crazy. As the saying goes, if you're going to act, you act the whole play. Having weathered countless storms, I was extremely cautious. I also understood the taboo of celebrating too early. So until the agreement officially took effect, Willow and I appeared, in everyone else's eyes, to be the sweetest and most loving couple. "George, tell me about us," Willow said with a curious look. "After we got married, how did we slowly make it to where we are today? It feels like it wasn't easy at all." "It really wasn't easy," I replied. Blinking, I continued. "Do you remember right after we graduated, we could barely even find jobs, let alone come up with the startup capital to start a business. Later, in order to quickly gain experience, you went to work at someone else's company to secretly learn their tricks, copying their system and business model, then left and started a new company based on it. And guess what happened?" "What happened?" Willow giggled as she listened, as if she could sense her own former recklessness. "The boss was furious, half dead from anger. He even tried to pull strings to get us thrown in jail." I gave a self-mocking smile. At that dinner table, we were humiliated by all the big shots in the industry. I drank 3 glasses of liquor per person to apologize. I drank so much I ended up in the hospital getting my stomach pumped. Only then did they let us off. After that, the company collapsed. The capital chain snapped. A whole year of our hard-earned savings just went down the drain. Willow's laughter stopped abruptly. She looked at me with guilt written all over her face. "I'm sorry, George. I caused you trouble. It's all in the past. It's fine." I forced a bitter smile and continued. "Later, we took over projects from other bankrupt companies. We set up street stalls day and night to promote and sell products. After clearing out all the inventory, we barely managed to stabilize the company. Life was exhausting back then, but we were full of drive. When we were sleepy at night, we slept in the van. When we were hungry, we just made do with a couple of pieces of bread. Not like now, when we've become so delicate." Willow simply looked at me without saying a word. Back then, she really could endure hardship. In the prime of her youth, she stayed by my side as we built everything from nothing. I once liked a peaceful, stable life, but she wanted something wealthier, something grander. Her father's debts had dragged her family into poverty. As she used to say, she had been terrified of being poor. She didn't want our family to ever live like that again. 10 years later, she truly achieved it, but at the peak of success, there was no longer even the slightest room left for me. As I thought about everything from the past, I couldn't help but sigh. When I looked at Willow again, she had already fallen asleep, her body rising and falling gently with each breath. The sound of the 4-drip echoed through the deathly silent hospital room. The air felt frighteningly cold. After tucking the blanket around her, I quietly left the ward. Before leaving, I specifically instructed the nurse on duty. I'll give you 10,000 from today on. Keep a close eye on Ms. Lou. Not a single thing can go wrong. Chapter 14. The nurses nodded blankly, watching me as I walked out of the hospital. After taking a drag of a cigarette, I soon saw a white sedan pull up in front of me. Anna slowly rolled down the window. Her big eyes shimmered as she called out, "Sugar Daddy, get in the car." "Don't shout nonsense like that," I said quickly. I coughed awkwardly and glanced around, making sure no one was paying attention. "Oh please, I'm not wrong," she replied. "Hurry up, let's go. I'm about to suffocate from holding it in." Anna pulled me into the car, slammed on the gas, and sped off. 10 minutes later, we arrived at a night market near a hotel by the 3rd Ring Road. It wasn't even 11 yet, but the place was already buzzing with noise and filled with the aroma of grilled food. Anna and I found a riverside barbecue stall and ordered half a case of beer. "George, in 6 days you'll finally be free." Surprised? Happy? She asked. Happy, I nodded, but I couldn't summon any real excitement. Maybe the hardships of so many years had withered me. Leaving Willow only brought a sense of relief to my exhausted heart. "We came out to celebrate tonight. Don't look so down," she said. Anna pinched the corners of my mouth into a forced smile and shoved a skewer into my mouth. "We're talking about over 100 million in assets. If it were me, I wouldn't sleep for a month. By the way, where are you planning to go? What are you going to do next?" "I haven't figured that out yet," I replied. After thinking for a moment, I said, "Maybe travel around the world, maybe build a small villa, or maybe start another company and go back to entrepreneurship. As long as I leave Willow, however I live will be full of sunshine." "Why do you always bring up your wife?" Anna suddenly leaned in close to my face. Suspicion flickered behind her glasses. "George, let me ask you something honestly." "Go ahead. Do you really not have even the slightest feelings left for her? Even for the Willow she is now, is there truly no room for reconciliation?" Her words stunned me for a moment. A thought flashed through my mind, and I abruptly stood up, alert. "Who told you to ask me that, Maria?" "Of course not." Anna hurried to explain. "I'm obviously on your side. George, what benefit would I get from persuading you two to get back together?" "You're right. Maybe I'm overthinking." I took a deep breath and sat back down. "Anna, we've known each other for so many years. We're closer than siblings. You can't betray me. If I lose you too, then I'll truly have no one left I can trust." My nerves had been stretched tight for so long that even my logic was starting to unravel. For a moment, I had actually suspected that Anna had been sent by Maria to act as a mediator, trying to convince me to let Willow off the hook. She gave a light smile. "Relax. Only an idiot wouldn't cling to someone powerful." Anna stepped behind me, kneading my shoulders and patting my back. "I just wanted to talk. It feels like you're under way too much pressure." I shrugged. There's really nothing left to say between Willow and me. I reached for a cigarette but couldn't find one after fumbling around for a while, so I took a gulp of beer instead to distract myself. "I don't have any feelings for her anymore," I said. "Right now, I'm just putting on a show." Chapter 15. After getting my reply, Anna let out an "oh," and then fell silent. The strange atmosphere lasted a full 2 minutes before I finally took the initiative to speak. "By the way, let me ask you something. Why is it that even after 10 years, you seem completely unchanged? Your mindset is always so positive and upbeat." She pressed her lips together. "What positive and upbeat?" Anna suddenly gave a bitter smile. "If I were really happy every day, would I be coming out to drink with you just to drown my sorrows? These past 20 years haven't been good. My parents, who work inside the system, forced me into a job I don't even like. Every day I deal with all kinds of lawsuits. My head feels like it's going to explode. Not only is my career unsatisfying, my love life is even worse. I went on blind dates with 3 different boyfriends one after another. Every single one of them just wanted to sleep with me. I didn't even like any of them. I've been controlled by my parents for far too long. Work, love, none of it is what I actually want. Honestly, I kind of envy you, George. Even though things between you and your wife have fallen apart like this, at least you two had a period of genuine happiness." I nodded. "You're right. But the price of that happiness isn't something everyone can afford." I was hurt too deeply. Right now, I can't see even a shred of hope in life. Anna picked up her glass and clinked it against mine. After a moment, she suddenly said, "Hey, George, how about we open a design studio together? I don't want to keep doing this crappy job anyway. Once I get the money, I'll quit. I don't need to make a fortune. I just want to fulfill the dream we once had." Hearing that, I felt a faint warmth rising in my chest. "That's not a bad idea," I said. "I'm in. Then let's celebrate in advance. Cheers." Clink. When I woke up, it was already the next morning. Blinding sunlight streamed through the window, and only then did I realize I was lying on a hotel bed. I turned my head. Anna was smiling at me. Me. What happened last night?" I tried hard to recall, but my head hurt so badly I could barely think. She spoke softly. You drank way too much last night. I told you to stop, but you kept going. I didn't know where you lived, so I just booked a room. Anna slowly pulled on her stockings, patted the bed, and said, relax. It's a twin room. I still have to go to the law firm for work. I'm heading out. There's warm milk on the nightstand. Drink it to sober up. Only then did I let out a breath of relief and collapse back onto the bed. After getting dressed and leaving, I picked up some food on the way and headed to the hospital. At that moment, Willow was anxiously asking the nurse on duty about me. Didn't he tell you where he went last night? Why can't you help me make a call? I don't know how to use a phone. I cleared my throat. Willow, I'm back. The moment she saw me, Willow rushed over and asked where I had gone. I brushed her off with a couple of casual excuses, then began another day of taking care of her. Though the days were dull, Willow seemed to enjoy them. She kept telling me how wonderful I was, saying that if I ever got sick in the future, she would take meticulous care of me too. Half joking, I asked why she was always cursing me with illness. Just like that, 3 days passed. Although the time before I could free myself from Willow was getting closer, Willow seemed to grow more and more dependent on me. Even if I just went to the restroom, she would follow and stand guard outside. She would foolishly stand at the door, telling anyone who passed that her husband was inside the restroom, leaving me utterly embarrassed. I said, the discharge papers are ready. We can go. Willow's injuries weren't serious. A few days had been enough for her to leave the hospital. At the hospital entrance, she held my hand and said mysteriously, George, you've worked so hard these past few days. I've prepared a mysterious big gift for you. What big gift? Oh, you'll find out when the time comes. It's a secret for now. Chapter 16. Willow made a shoo gesture, then started insisting that we go stroll around the snack street in the east side of the city. That place had every kind of street food imaginable, all cheap and comforting. Back in the day, it had been our refuge during the hardest times of our lives. For her, it might have only been a week since she last went. For me, it had been several years. I had almost forgotten the way there. Fortunately, the place hadn't changed much. Willow and I walked hand in hand. Passers-by cast envious glances at us. To them, we looked like a couple in our 30s, yet we were acting like young lovers still in the honeymoon phase. Boss, one sugar figurine, Willow called out. She stopped in front of an old stall. The little stand had been there for over 10 years. I still remembered the first time we came. Back then, Willow and I were only in that ambiguous, not quite official stage of a relationship. The old lady had tried to play matchmaker for us, smiling as she said that holding hands while spinning the wheel made it easier to land on the dragon. And somehow, we really did land on the dragon. We were thrilled for half a day. Ever since then, Willow came often. She said coming here more would make our relationship stronger. The old lady looked at us carefully and quickly recognized us. Oh my, aren't you two that couple from a city university of finance and economics? It's been 3 or 4 years since I last saw you, hasn't it? Willow replied a little awkwardly. We just suddenly felt like coming today. The old lady sighed. Time really flies. You must have been married for quite a while now. As she arranged the sugar figurine, she chuckled. You two have such a good relationship. I've seen so many couples like you over the years. Very few actually make it this far. Of course, Willow said proudly. My husband and I have a great relationship. He was even taking care of me in the hospital a few days ago. She looked full of pride. The gold hoops on her ears, worth hundreds of thousands, swaying slightly. I only let out a dry chuckle and said nothing. The old lady glanced at me in confusion. I truly hope you two grow old together. In today's world, everything is driven by material desire. It's all so complicated. Back in our day, 2 steamed buns and a bag of rice were enough to start a family. Without the other person, life just wouldn't work. Thank you for your blessing, Willow said. We definitely will. After paying, Willow reached out her hand to me, and I clasped it. She spun the wheel, but the pointer stopped on the rat of the Chinese zodiac. Willow's expression immediately darkened. The old lady hurried to smooth things over. Oh, this one means no one but you. It symbolizes that you only have each other in your hearts. Willow's eyes sparkled. Really? That's wonderful. After taking the sugar figurine, she gave me the first bite like an excited child. I had just taken a bite when the phone in my pocket rang. Seeing that it was the verification call, I immediately pulled Willow aside and handed her the phone. Since Willow didn't know how to use modern smartphones, I always kept it for her. Willow, they're going to ask you a few questions. Just confirm everything. Okay. She obediently took the phone. On the other end, the caller said, MS. Willow, we have verified that you are transferring $70 million in assets into your husband George's name, and that these will not be considered joint marital property. Is this decision made of your own free will? Yes. Willow answered quickly, resolving one issue after another without hesitation. As I listened to the conversation, my heart bloomed with joy. Once the verification was complete, It meant the normal procedures would begin. In less than 3 days, everything would be finalized. The voice on the other end continued. Understood. The assets will be officially transferred in 3 days. However, during these 3 days, you may cancel at any time. Chapter 17. After hanging up, I tentatively asked Willow. Willow, did your best friend say something about me behind my back? She did, Willow said angrily. She said you're just pretending to still love me, that you want to take all my assets and then divorce me. What? I feigned shock. Really? How could she think of me that way? Willow stuck out her tongue. Whatever. I'm not going to listen to a stranger like her. I can tell who treats me well. I asked. What if I really planned to do that? If you really did, I'd still accept it willingly. Willow tilted her face up. Her youthful tone couldn't hide the weariness in her eyes. I belong to you completely. You can do whatever you want. If you really wanted to leave me, then it must be because of my own shortcomings. I wouldn't cling to you. On the surface, I nodded. Inside, I was overjoyed. It was as if heaven itself was helping me. Looks like I'll save myself a lot of trouble in the future. As long as Willow stayed in this amnesiac state, I could slip away cleanly. Even if she regained her memory, she wouldn't be able to fight me. She'd probably get so angry she'd give herself heart problems. Just as the thought crossed my mind, a message suddenly popped up on her phone. The contact name read, Maria. Willow, I told you to see what kind of person George really is. He slept with another woman last night. Before I could react, several photos popped up in rapid succession. They were all secretly taken pictures of me and Anna entering and leaving the hotel together. That damn woman. Rage flared inside me. I hadn't expected her to pull a stunt like this. Maria had followed me for so long just to make me look bad, and she knew I monitored Willow's phone. She had deliberately sent the message while Willow was on the verification call. If Willow got angry, or worse, regained her memory, wouldn't my 70 million go up in smoke? Willow froze after seeing the pictures, zooming in repeatedly to confirm. George, who is this? It's just a friend, I said. We went out for drinks last night to catch up. I could only explain directly. Your best friend is taking things out of context. Don't believe her. Willow's face darkened, jealousy written all over it. Why would drinking lead to staying at a hotel? Didn't you say you went home to get something last night? I sighed. I just didn't want you to worry. The hotel was a twin room. I was drinking nearby and got too drunk, so I stayed there. If you don't believe me, we can check the hotel records. Willow took a few steps back. Do you really think that explanation sounds reasonable? And why do you need to chat with other women at all? Her reaction was normal. Back when we were 20. She would get jealous if I so much as talked to a female friend, let alone go out drinking alone and stay at a hotel with one. But right now, I really wanted to explode. I wanted to shout at her, you cheated first. You filed for divorce first. We're essentially already divorced. Even if I drink with another woman, or sleep with one, you have no right to interfere. But I remembered the day at the hospital when I mentioned divorce, and how her head had started hurting badly. I was afraid to bring it up again, afraid it would trigger her memories. For the sake of that 70 million, I swallowed my anger and coaxed her the way I used to when we were madly in love. Willow pushed through the crowd without looking back. I followed closely behind her. Willow, don't be mad. I should have told you in advance. I really just went out for drinks. Nothing happened. What do you want? I'll buy it for you. A bag. Cosmetics. She turned to look at me, her eyes red. George, I don't want any of those. I just want you. If you really fell in love with another woman like they say, I would be heartbroken. Chapter 18. We stood there on the street, staring at each other, neither of us speaking much. It wasn't until I gently wiped away her tears and Willow's mood seemed to improve a little, that Maria suddenly stepped out of the alley. George, how long are you going to keep pretending? Sneaking around with other women behind Willow's back, have you no shame? She walked to Willow's side. Strangely, this time Willow didn't push her away. I said calmly, you've been spying on me for this long. If you've got the guts, release all the photos and let's see whether I was just out drinking. Maria snapped. I don't care what you were doing. You checked into a hotel with another woman, that's an undeniable fact. She pointed at me. You transferred Willow's assets and now you're planning to abandon her. How heartless can you be? Seeing that Willow remained silent, she softened her tone and continued. Willow, I'm the one trying to help you. Don't let this man fool you. Call and cancel the asset transfer right now. It's not too late to regret it. If you wait any longer, even a miracle won't save you. Willow shook her head. I want to hear George say it himself, whether he doesn't love me anymore. Seeing the situation turning urgent, I could only speak against my conscience. I love you. Of course I love you, Willow. If I didn't, why would I have married you? Why would I have lived with you for 10 years? I love you, and you love me. Do we need outsiders meddling in our relationship? While Willow hesitated in thought, Maria pressed on. You're wrong, Willow. You stopped loving George a long time ago. You ignored him for years. He doesn't have feelings for you anymore either. Right now he just wants to trick you out of your money and get rid of you completely. When that happens, you'll have nothing left. Willow stared at me and murmured, I don't believe I would stop loving George, and I don't believe he would stop loving me. You don't believe it? Fine. Seeing persuasion fail, Maria brought out her final trump card. When Makoto stepped out from behind, I finally realized how thoroughly she had prepared. She said, This is Makoto. Do you remember him? He's your junior from the same major, also from a city university of finance and economics. You've been in love with him for a long time. After Maria's introduction, Makoto immediately stepped forward, fawning. Willow, I just found out you lost your memory. No wonder you don't recognize me. We've been dating for 8 months already. Look at my face. Does it ring any bells? Under the double shock from both of them, Willow clearly couldn't handle it. She clutched her head, her expression twisted in pain. Realizing things were spiraling out of control, I rushed forward. Get out of the way. Aren't you afraid something will happen if you keep provoking her like this? Makoto blocked me. Stop pretending to care. You probably wish President Liu would just die, don't you? He ground his teeth. You're just jealous because I stole your wife. You took advantage of her amnesia to take everything from her, planning to dump her afterward. George, your heart is pitch black. Hearing that, the anger I'd been suppressing finally exploded. To hell with appearances, I kicked him to the ground. I roared. My heart is black. What the hell have I done that's black? I stayed by Willow's side for 10 whole years and ended up with nothing. Who's the heartless one here? Don't think I don't know what you two are plotting. You, Maria, you consulted a lawyer about asset transfers before, didn't you? My connections run deep. You can't hide something that's small from me. You just want to snatch Willow's money from me. And now you're standing here pretending to be some righteous hero. Chapter 19. I pointed at Makoto again. And you got so used to being a kept pretty boy that you forgot who you are. You're worse than a stray dog. And you think you can take my place. If Willow didn't have money, would you have slept with her? Even if I were dead for 800 years, it still wouldn't be your turn to spend a single cent of hers. Because every penny Willow has includes half that belongs to me. Got it? After I roared at them, both of them were stunned into silence. I had long seen through their petty schemes. With Willow's temper, the fact that anyone was still hovering around her at this point meant very few of them had genuine intentions. The air was thick with the smell of gunpowder, as if it could ignite at any second. The three of us, each with our own hidden motives, were desperately trying to seize Willow, but at that moment, Willow herself seemed to return to clarity. Her expression turned strange. Seeing this, Makoto immediately stepped forward and even pulled out some photos. Willow, are you remembering me? These are some pictures from when we were hanging out before. Look, this one was taken at a private pool. You looked so sexy. And this one, we were playing golf and drinking coffee on the rooftop. Isn't that exactly the kind of vibe you like? However, Willow shoved him away directly. Are you kidding me? You're saying I would stop loving a perfectly good George and fall for someone like you? I was married to George for 5 years. You think I'd throw away those 5 years of feelings just for you? You think way too highly of yourself. If you're going to make up lies, at least put some effort into them. Makoto was completely dumbfounded. Inside, I let out a huge sigh of relief. Thank God she hadn't regained her memory. But to be honest, Willow had always looked down on these pretty boys. She only wanted to play around. Once she got bored, she would move on to the next one. And Makoto's appearance back then wasn't because he was outstanding. It was because my relationship with Willow had already rotted beyond repair. We had reached that point not because of one explosive event, but because of countless small issues, bigger conflicts, and misunderstandings piling up. Losing faith in someone is like cancer cells. Once the first sign appears, it keeps spreading until everything is completely dead. Willow, how could you? Makoto looked close to breaking down. Didn't you say I was the one you loved most? Willow spat lightly. Have some self-awareness. Get out of my sight right now, or I'm calling the police. After thinking for a while, that was the harshest threat her 20-year-old mindset could come up with. To her, calling the police was the most serious consequence imaginable. Seeing there was no chance left, and not wanting to provoke her further, Makoto could only leave in humiliation. With one major piece removed from the board, Maria still refused to give up. Willow, why don't we talk this through? Things really aren't what you think. No need. Willow rejected her outright. This is between George and me. Don't interfere anymore. I know how to handle it. Maybe we used to be very close, but right now I only acknowledge George. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. Those words left Maria completely stunned. She never expected Willow to cut ties with her. All her effort over so long had gone down the drain. Maria said resentfully, Fine. Willow, I didn't expect this from you. I'll make sure everyone sees your true colors. When George scams you one day, don't come crying back to us. After saying that, she turned and left without looking back. Chapter 20. Sure enough, in less than half a day, The entire group knew that Willow had lost her memory. Everything descended into chaos. Before I even arrived at the headquarters, I had already received countless notifications from the secretary. The shareholders had begun a new round of internal power struggles, each hiding their own schemes. Several departments were nearly reshuffled overnight. Willow's former core team was purged clean at astonishing speed. Even I was surprised. The secretary said anxiously, "President Liu, this is serious. All the shareholders want to seize your shares. We can barely hold them off." I waved my hand. "It's fine, as long as I'm here. They won't be able to turn the sky upside down. Call for an emergency shareholders meeting immediately." I was unusually calm. The 10 years of hardship I had endured were finally proving useful. Once the meeting began, everyone voiced their opinions, but the only thing they unanimously agreed on was that Willow should step down. In their eyes, she was no longer capable of serving as chairwoman. Several older shareholders even started arguing across the table, the tension so sharp it felt like blades were drawn. Willow sat there, too frightened to move, until I gently tapped the table. "Enough. The company will continue operating as usual. I'll handle the redistribution. Everyone will get a share of the meat." The moment I finished speaking, a few old men immediately pointed at me and began cursing. "Who do you think you are, George? You've only been vice president for a few days and you dare to speak here. Tell Willow to hand over her shares right now, or neither of you will have a good ending." Seeing others ready to follow their lead, I calmly pulled out a document. "Watch your tone. All of Willow's shares are now under my name. Do you think I'm qualified to speak?" The entire table fell silent. Even the secretary looked stunned, because they all knew that in just 3 days, I had used my position as vice president to lock down every key management channel. I had long anticipated that Maria would stir up trouble today. Her goal was obvious, to use shareholder chaos as cover to clean out Willow's team and replace them with her own people. I kept the secretary in the dark for a reason. I was afraid she would defend Willow's interests and rally the shareholders against me ahead of time. Now, 80% of the entire group was under my control. I cleared my throat. "Does anyone still want to vote against me? Those who follow me will all get their share. As for the two of you arguing just now, why not hand over your shares? We'll redistribute them to the rest. If you don't want to leave gracefully, I can help you leave gracefully." The moment they heard shares would be divided, the others' eyes lit up with greed. This was the perfect opportunity to choose sides. Unable to withstand the pressure, the two shareholders surrendered their shares and took the cash to leave. After I finished restructuring everything, I officially became chairman of the company. I promoted the secretary to vice president. She had followed Willow for years and was already fully capable of managing most of the operations. I told her calmly, "From now on, you and your team will handle most of the company's affairs. Otherwise, I'll take it out on Willow. But don't get any ideas. My people are watching you at all times." Using Willow as leverage, I pinned her down effectively. She clearly hadn't expected me to be this ruthless. After leaving the company, Willow's attitude toward me completely changed. "George, you're amazing," she said. "So asking for the shares was to suppress those people. Without you, I wouldn't have known what to do." She believed I was doing everything for her. She thought she understood my good intentions. She believed every word I said. "Why would I ever lie to you? Silly girl," I chuckled. "Those two just wanted to steal your assets. I'm the only one who's sincere toward you, and I never cheated." She nodded. I believe you now." Chapter 21. To completely calm Willow's emotions, I slowly leaned closer and, catching her off guard, kissed her lightly, though I had to overcome a huge psychological barrier. For the sake of ensuring everything went smoothly, I was willing to go all in. Feeling the warmth on her forehead, Willow's face flushed instantly red. Beneath her delicate makeup, she looked exactly like a shy young girl. "Why you? What are you doing? There are so many people around." Her voice was so soft she could barely hear herself. Embarrassment written all over her as if she wanted to disappear into the ground. I replied confidently, "We've been married for 10 years. What's wrong with me giving you a kiss?" "Willow, as long as I'm here, you don't have to worry. I'll stay by your side." With such a firm assurance, Willow finally relaxed. That night, we lay beside the rooftop swimming pool in the city center. Gazing at the scattered stars above, Willow suddenly asked, "George, I've heard bits and pieces about us from other people. In these 10 years, did I argue with you a lot, or do something that hurt you?" I scratched my head. "Well, yes, there were things." "Why are you asking?" she said. "I want to know what I did wrong, so I can fix it in the future. I really don't want to fight with you." Willow spoke sincerely. "Even though I've lost my memory and didn't consciously do those things, I'm willing to apologize for you, and I'm willing to change. I don't want George to end up hating me. I don't want to become that version of myself 10 years later." I nodded. "Where do you want to start?" She thought for a moment. "The first big fight, the serious kind." "All right." I stared at the starry sky and said slowly, "If we're talking about the first serious fight, It was about a year after we got married. You secretly took on a part-time job outside and got harassed by a client. At the time, I couldn't understand why you were still trying to earn extra money when you already had a stable job. You said you wanted to raise startup capital as quickly as possible. She asked softly, "What happened after that?" "I beat up the client," I said. "Ended up paying a lot in compensation. And because of that, you ignored me for 3 days." Willow froze for a moment, then murmured, "Would I really become that obsessed with money? But I was willing to struggle with you." I shrugged. "That wasn't being obsessed with money. You just wanted us to have better living conditions. It wasn't your fault." She nodded slowly. "Okay, then what about the second time?" "The second time was in our 3rd year of marriage. We disagreed on the company's direction. Around that time, you had gained some recognition, and several big bosses started approaching you for partnerships." I spoke in a low voice. "I wanted the company to grow independently. You wanted to use their influence to expand quickly, but I could tell those men had ulterior motives. So things got unpleasant at a business dinner. And then," she asked, "because of that, 3 projects fell through. You said I was holding you back. You left home for 2 days. I searched everywhere for you during those 2 days." I continued. "At that time, we were living in an 80 square meter apartment. It was tiring, but things were slowly getting better. We worked on business together. We went grocery shopping after work. We picked out fresh watermelons together. I still remember you saw some trick online about how to test a watermelon, patting it with both hands to hear the sound. In the end, we didn't pick a good watermelon. We smashed it instead and had to buy a broken one." Chapter 22. Hearing that, Willow couldn't help but laugh. "Was I really that silly? That sounds totally made up." "Ha ha ha. That's exactly what I thought at the time too." I smiled. "Maybe we were both too focused on work. We started caring less and less about everyday life." Willow nodded. "But it actually sounds nice. That's the kind of life I'd want." "What happened after that?" "After that," I paused. "The next big fight was when your company had just gone public." As I continued thinking, the smile slowly faded from my face. "Your parents, who hadn't contacted you for years, suddenly came back, and they brought along some diamond bachelor, rich, powerful, and wanted you to marry him. They were afraid you'd refuse, so they came to see me privately. They belittled me in every possible way, said I was just a poor loser who wasn't worthy of their daughter, told me to look in the mirror and know my place. They pressured me to divorce you." "What happened then?" she asked quietly. "You walked in when I was arguing back at them. You didn't ask what happened. You just scolded me, and that was the end of it. You didn't explain it to me." Willow frowned. I spread my hands. What was there to explain? Some things can't be fixed with explanations. Besides, I was afraid that if I told you, you might really start thinking I wasn't good enough for you. Willow looked incredulous. "How could that be? Between my parents and you, I would have stood on your side. I would never listen to them." I murmured. "The you right now wouldn't. The you 5 years later." "I'm not so sure. People change. It's not just appearances, mindsets change too. There's nothing in this world that's eternal. The stars shift, seas dry up, even promises get blown away by the wind." Willow fell silent for a while before asking softly, "And then?" "Then you got pregnant. But because you were busy with the company, you terminated the pregnancy." I let out a slow breath. "After that, you became permanently infertile. Our hope was gone. We fought about it many times. Every time, you said you were already working so hard and still had to deal with pregnancy. You said if I had satisfied you enough, the child wouldn't have been aborted. But at that time, I felt like I was already doing everything I could. I worked overtime every day, stayed up all night. I didn't do any less than you did. Back then, I was exhausted, and I kept wanting to ask you, how far did I have to go before you would finally stop?" I hesitated. "There was also another important reason why you terminated the pregnancy. It might not have been just because you were busy with the company." After saying so much, I still couldn't bring myself to finish that sentence. That was the first time I suspected Willow of cheating. But before I could find any proof, the child was already gone. The truth vanished along with that life, becoming a topic I could never touch again. Willow seemed to realize something. A flicker of subtle fear passed through her eyes. The wind on the rooftop was strong. With just a gentle brush, her long hair was swept into the air. I could already tell she didn't have the courage to keep asking. The reason I dared to tell her all this was because after days of testing, I had seen through her current state. The 20-year-old Willow, upon hearing these things, would only feel guilt toward me, and that would make it easier for me to leave smoothly. Perhaps there was another reason. Before I walked away, I wanted an answer, for both of us. Looking back on the past 10 years of bitterness and struggle, I had always been the aggrieved one. No matter how hard I tried, I was still the one criticized. I wanted to switch roles just once. Let Willow be the one who felt the weight. Let her see how much her future actions had hurt me. They say when people gain power, they become arrogant. A single leaf can block your sight, and you forget there are mountains beyond. Chapter 23. All I ever wanted was a simple, peaceful life. But Willow had endless desires. Her eyes had long been blinded by material ambition, unable to see my efforts or my pain. She asked in a trembling voice, then, what happened next? After a long silence, Willow spoke again. I could tell she had gathered the courage to face it. I said, after that, it was 2 years ago. I organized my thoughts before continuing. That was when I found ambiguous messages between you and someone else on your phone. I also had to face the fact that you often didn't come home at night. When I argued with you at home, you froze all my bank cards. When I argued with you at the company, you stripped me of all my positions. You once told me to my face that whatever you did had nothing to do with me, and that I should get as far away from you as possible. And not only that, you smashed the gift you had given me when you confessed your love. I paused. That gift was my favorite. It had taken Willow half a month to put that model together. A Ferris wheel model. When I was little, I loved Ferris wheels, but I never had the money to ride one. So whenever we passed by one together, I would stand there watching for a long time. Willow had remembered that. That day she laughed and said, "Haha, I know your dream is to become an architectural designer, so I'm giving you this model. It's really detailed. I hope that after being with me, you can still happily pursue your own hobbies. That's the real you." But during that fight, she shattered the very thing I treasured most. From that moment on, the bond one had with Willow broke as well. I really did something that awful. I'm sorry. Maybe I finally understand why you wanted to divorce me. Willow began crying again. It was hard to tell whether it was guilt or fear. At 20, she had been delicate, a little crybaby. But seeing that expression on the face of a 30-year-old woman felt strangely out of place. Looking at her now, all I felt was indifference, anger, and impatience. I said, "Why don't you ask what happened after that?" Out of habit, I lit a cigarette. After that came countless arguments. Eventually, we stopped even arguing. I wouldn't see you for half a month at a time. The last fight was 6 days ago. When I caught you cheating in bed, my voice turned cold. That man named Makoto was on top of you. When I kicked the door open, neither of you even treated me like I mattered. I will never forget that scene. Makoto flaunting himself in front of me, and you pointing at my face, telling me to get lost. Ugh. As she listened, Willow suddenly began gagging. Maybe imagining herself sleeping with another man made her nauseous. Wave after wave of discomfort hit her. Her voice shook. Was I really that shameless? Willow looked completely shattered. At the same time, she looked at me anxiously. George, I'm not that 30-year-old Willow anymore. I'm the 20-year-old Willow. Can you give me one more chance? I know now what I should do. I'll never let you feel wronged again. Sure, I said with a faint, teasing smile. I have a great mentality. I don't hold grudges over the past. I just hope you treat me better from now on. Heal my wounded heart. That's enough. Willow clung to those words like a lifeline. Don't worry, George. I'll make it up to you. You shouldn't have suffered so much. It hurts me to think about it. She hugged me tightly and broke into sobs. I remained expressionless, my heart unmoved. To be honest, I felt a trace of pity for Willow, because in her, I saw the person I used to be, desperate, humble, clinging. When Willow climbed higher and higher, needing me less and less, I still wanted nothing more than to live a good life with her. So I humbled myself. I begged. I prayed that the Willow I once knew would come back. Now she had come back, but I no longer needed her, and I would turn the tables, toy with her feelings, and crush them beneath my feet. Chapter 24. I had to admit, playing the guilt card was incredibly effective. Over the next 2 days, Willow behaved unusually obedient, always there whenever I called. I found it all perfectly natural. Before I left, letting her serve me one more time, what was wrong with that? When I said I wanted to go hiking, Willow bought me proper climbing gear. When I said I wanted to visit a foot spa, she booked the best one in the city. Every morning, I woke up to hot meals already prepared. I was thoroughly satisfied. George, are my skills okay? Not bad. Not bad. You're doing great. I crossed my legs, enjoying the massage from the once renowned female CEO. From time to time, I glanced at my watch. It was already the last day. Once tomorrow at noon passed, my account would be filled with more zeros than I could count. Still, to be safe, I asked Anna out to check on the progress and to handle one last matter. Holding the documents, Anna joked. So how have the past few days been? Has your wife been taking good care of you? I stroked my chin. Don't call her my wife anymore. I'm divorcing her the day after tomorrow. Right now it's just playing along. Oh my. Bullying a woman with amnesia. I really am heartless. Huh? Anna nodded like a pecking chicken. I think so too. I rolled my eyes. Get lost. Did you handle what I asked you to do? I lightly tapped her head. She immediately yelped in exaggeration. It's done. It's done. Adjusting her glasses, she said, I've booked your flight for the day after tomorrow. The asset transfer is still being followed up. Everything is progressing normally. It should arrive by noon tomorrow. Good. Then there's just one last thing. As I spoke, The smile faded from my face. I suddenly grabbed Anna by the wrists and pressed her against the car seat. Hey, George, what are you doing? Pinned beneath me. Anna's face flushed visibly red. Tell me the truth, I said coldly. What did Maria give you? If I find a bug on you, or any other evidence, I won't spare you just because we're old friends. She pouted. What are you talking about? Why would I help her? After we went drinking last time, Maria was following behind. If you weren't deliberately setting me up, why did you take me to a hotel, creating the illusion that I cheated? Under normal circumstances, a man and a woman would book 2 separate rooms. Don't tell me there was only one room left. I'm not that stupid. After my barrage of questions, Anna looked completely stunned, almost dizzy. Why you? Is there some misunderstanding here? George, I really didn't know she was following you. She looked aggrieved. As for the hotel, when she hesitated and couldn't explain, I decided to search her directly. Her breathing quickened. Don't touch me. Anna was too weak to break free. Unfortunately, after searching her thoroughly, the only thing I found in her bag was a phone. Password, I said. If you don't tell me, I won't be gentle. 2580. Her eyes began to dart nervously, as if she were hiding something. I immediately opened her chat history, looking for proof that she had colluded with Maria, but what I saw on the screen left me completely stunned. Chapter 25. She had pinned my contact to the top of her chat list, and she had talked to her best friend about me, again and again. I've actually been watching him quietly all these years. I didn't expect that after so long. He still loves Willow. Sometimes I feel unwilling to accept it. I don't think I'm worse than Willow, but they were childhood sweethearts. I'm just a passing extra in his life. Willow has gone too far. Even I can't stand it anymore. I really feel sorry for him. Yay. He asked me out for drinks today. He even said we might open a design studio together in the future. I'm so happy I can't even describe it. We're about to leave together soon. I've waited 10 whole years for this moment. Since college, I've secretly watched him from afar, but he always treated me like a sister, my love. I only ever wanted to give it to him. He's been hurt so deeply by Willow. I hope I can be the one to help him walk out of the shadows. Xiao, you have to cheer me on. When he and I finally end up together, you have to be my bridesmaid. Ha ha ha. Reading line after line, my mind went completely blank. Anna's soft voice sounded beside me. George, you saw it, didn't you? I've liked you for 10 years. She bit her lip. That night after we drank, I actually wanted to, but in the end I gave up. That's why I booked a twin room. I was afraid it was just my one-sided wish. Even if you left Willow, it didn't necessarily mean you would choose me. But it's okay, I've thought it through. Even if you only see me as a sister, I'm willing to stay by your side. So please don't keep doubting me. It really hurts. I suddenly realized I might have wronged her. I quickly stood up. I'm sorry, Anna. I didn't know. I didn't hurt you anywhere, did I? You're the only person I have left. I want to trust you enough to turn my back to you. I've been betrayed too many times. Anna looked at me seriously. It's okay, I understand. But since you already know now, I still want to gather the courage to ask you something. I've held this in for 10 years. George, would you be willing to date me? The sky over a city was still heavy with clouds, faint signs of rain gathering. Today was the final day of the asset transfer. I sent Willow a message, telling her I was busy at the company and wouldn't be going home for lunch. At this point, I didn't want to see her at all. I certainly didn't want to bring up divorce face to face and risk her clinging desperately, but Willow insisted on meeting. She said, North City Amusement Park. You have to come. I'll be waiting for you here. After thinking for a long time, I decided to go. Leaving without a word didn't feel right. There should be a proper ending. I was also afraid that if I didn't go, Willow might do something extreme once the divorce papers came. An hour later, I arrived at the place I hadn't visited in 10 whole years. The amusement rides that once filled my childhood dreams now stirred almost no emotion. Mom, I want to ride that. You can't ride that one. Come on. Children tugged at their parents, pointing excitedly at the Ferris wheel. I stood beneath the giant structure, looking up at the rings of blinking lights. After a while, Willow's voice sounded from behind me. George, you're here. She smiled sweetly, like a gentle spring breeze, tinged with girlish shyness. Willow, what is it? You want to ride the Ferris wheel? Of course. Didn't you love Ferris wheels when you were little? We've been living such high-end lives lately that we almost forgot. She took my hand. These 10 years with me must have been hard for you. You probably never even had the time to properly ride a Ferris wheel. I guess that's true. I frowned slightly, staring at the gloomy sky. Might as well ride it one last time before I leave, so I don't end up dreaming about it later. Chapter 26. When Willow led me inside, I realized there was no one in line for the Ferris wheel. What's going on? Just as I was puzzled, the lights on the Ferris wheel suddenly began flashing again, this time forming the shape of a heart. Looking closer, I saw that the other cabins were filled with flowers. George, happy birthday. Willow stood there with her hands behind her back, smiling. You forgot again, didn't you? Good thing I remembered. When the birthday song started playing over the speakers, it finally hit me. These past few days, I had been so focused on the asset transfer that I completely forgot my own birthday. Let's go, George. Okay. I never imagined that the next time I rode this Ferris wheel would be 10 years later, on my birthday. The person riding it with me hadn't changed, but I was no longer the same boy. The cabin slowly rose into the air. From above, I saw the fireworks show Willow had prepared, every detail carefully arranged. Only, the sky looked like it was about to rain. I glanced at the time. It was almost noon. Willow, meanwhile, was rummaging through her suitcase, looking excited. That made it even harder for me to speak. George, guess what I prepared for you? I hesitated. A watch, a phone. She shook her head. No, none of those. Willow smiled mysteriously and pulled out a delicate model. Ta-da. Your favorite Ferris wheel model. I learned from a well-known designer and assembled it piece by piece. It took me so long. I wanted to surprise you. So I stayed up every night secretly working on it. It's my little token of love. I looked at the dark circles under her eyes, then at the Ferris wheel model in her hands. An indescribable emotion surged inside me. 2 birthdays, 2 confessions. Willow had chosen the same gift both times. It felt as though a thread that had stretched across 10 years had been tied back together, piercing through different versions of us across time. For a fleeting second, I almost felt like I had returned to that innocent summer 10 years ago, back beneath that same Ferris wheel. George. I'm willing to love you again. Willow blushed, her hands trembling slightly. Will you be my boyfriend? I've let you down for so long. I want to start over. I want to fix everything I did wrong. If you agree, then take it. The moment she finished speaking, a sharp pain shot through my head. My ears began ringing. When I regained my senses, light rain had already begun to fall outside the glass. Patter, patter. The fireworks had faded. Dark clouds had taken their place. At that moment, my phone vibrated softly. The 70 million had officially arrived. Everything should come to an end now. Chapter 27. The weather's really terrible today. I let out a quiet sigh. A trace of disappointment flickered through Willow's eyes. Yeah, it really is. Willow, it's about time the dream ends, I murmured. When the Ferris wheel stops, I'm leaving. Is there anything else you want to say to me? There's a lot. The light was dim. I couldn't see clearly whether there were tears in her eyes. I only knew her voice was low and hoarse. George, actually, I've known all along. I'm not stupid. I just didn't want to accept it. I thought that if I loved you one more time, maybe you would give me another chance. Willow lowered her head, her face pale. When you said if I prepared a gift, you'd forgive me, I was so happy. I even dreamed about our future at night. When you said you wouldn't lie to me, I forced myself to believe it. I thought that if I gave you everything, I could keep your heart. Why did it turn out like this? Why? I reached into my pocket for a cigarette, only to realize I had forgotten it again. Willow, this isn't really about you. I don't want to hurt you like this. I love the 20-year-old you, but I can't accept what the 30-year-old you did. My heart has already withered. No amount of watering will make it grow again. I'm sorry. Let's part on good terms. Tomorrow at 9. Civil Affairs Bureau. Don't be late. As soon as I finished speaking, the Ferris wheel reached the bottom. The door opened. Without caring whether I had an umbrella, I stepped straight out into the rain. Why? Why did she have to give me a Ferris wheel model? The exact same one. It dragged up so many beautiful memories. Memories that would never come back. George, don't go. Willow finally chased after me, like a helpless stray kitten. George, what am I supposed to do if you leave? I really love you. What did I do wrong? What do I have to do for you to forgive me? I forced down the storm inside my chest and kept walking deeper into the rain, as if the heavy drops could wash away the pain inside me. She had known from the very beginning. When she cooked, when she signed the contract, when she saw the photos, when I quietly left late at night, she didn't dare face reality, so she chose to be deceived willingly, just like victims of scams who continue believing, because their minds activate a defense mechanism, they have to cling to that fragile illusion. As long as they stay asleep, the dream lasts longer, but once they wake up, there's nothing left. What Willow didn't understand was, staying asleep also has a price. Before, I was the one who paid it. Now, it was her turn. Her footsteps splashed closer. She grabbed my arm tightly. George, didn't you say we'd be together forever? How can you break your promise? Let go, I said coldly. Stop clinging to me. Let's give each other some dignity. I don't want dignity. I just want you. Sob. She cried uncontrollably. Give me one more chance, please. George, I'll do anything. Hearing her scream my name like that, my nose burned with restrained tears. Being this cruel to her, was it any different from being this cruel to the version of myself 10 years ago? It wasn't that I didn't want to go back. It was that I truly couldn't. 20-year-old Willow. This is the last time I'll ever say I'm sorry to you. Chapter 28. My voice trembled slightly. Whether you recover your memory or not, it doesn't matter anymore. This is the punishment you deserve. From now on, learn to be sensible, learn to behave, treat yourself and the people around you well. Otherwise, you'll only face more consequences. Do you understand? I understand. I understand. Willow collapsed onto the wet ground, sobbing in the rain. Through her tears, she kept repeating, "In the future, I have to be sensible, have to behave, otherwise I'll be punished, otherwise I'll be abandoned. In the future, I have to be sensible." Her voice grew smaller and smaller, until it was completely swallowed by the sound of the rain. The next morning, after counting every asset and confirming everything was correct, I headed to the Civil Affairs Bureau. On the way, the doctor from the hospital suddenly called. "Hello, is this Mr. Wong?" "What is it?" "Your wife was admitted to the hospital last night. She developed a high fever after being caught in the rain. She's only just regained consciousness." The doctor sounded concerned. "She looks to be in very poor condition. Could you come and take care of her?" I asked. "Is she awake?" "Yes." "Then tell her to come to the Civil Affairs Bureau for the divorce. Whoever arrives later is the loser." There was confusion in the doctor's voice. "Mr. Wong, why are you two getting divorced when everything seemed fine?" "Ma'am, your 4 isn't finished yet. You can't leave the hospital." When I arrived at the bureau, Willow was already standing at the entrance. She was still wearing her hospital gown. Her face was pale as paper. The corner of her lips twitched slightly. "Loser. Say it a few more times. After today, you won't get the chance." I gave a short laugh. From that single word, I knew she had recovered her memory. Maybe the shock from yesterday triggered it, or maybe the fever did. The 20-year-old Willow was gone, as if she had only existed to soften our goodbye, a dream woven to make the ending less brutal. But it didn't matter anymore. The money was in my account. My goal had been achieved. Willow pressed her lips together. "You played this ruthlessly." "I have nothing to say." Her eyes lowered. "Do we have to divorce?" "Why?" I asked. "I don't know. I just don't want to." She looked into the distance. "My memory is fully back, including everything from these past 7 days. When I had that fever last night, I thought about a lot of things. I owe you an apology." "George, stop." I cut her off immediately. "I can't accept such a grand apology. Take it back. We're even now. You don't owe me. I don't owe you. Let's stop torturing each other." I stepped toward the entrance, but Willow grabbed my arm again. This time, her expression carried something different, a trace of pleading. "Don't go." "Okay, George. I have nothing left now. The money, the company, you can take it all. I don't care. I just want to live out the rest of my days peacefully." I finally understood. When I was young, I was too restless. Only now do I realize how precious the person in front of me was. I've already learned my lesson. Can you forgive me? For a brief second, the Willow in front of me overlapped with the 20-year-old Willow in my memory. It made me hesitate, but I twisted my arm free. "No." "Why?" "Because," I said quietly, "there's a phrase, what's done cannot be undone." At that moment, Anna walked over from across the street and cut in. "What do you think George is? Someone you can throw away when you want and pick back up whenever it suits you?" The two women stood facing each other, sparks practically flying between their eyes. Willow's voice turned icy. "What does this have to do with you?" Anna let out a soft scoff. "How does it not? I'm George's fiancée now. Why else would I be at the Civil Affairs Bureau?" She slipped her arm through mine and said smugly, "Honestly, I should thank you. If you hadn't failed to cherish him, I wouldn't have gotten such a great bargain." Willow bit her lip. You what?" Anna rolled her eyes. "Take out your documents already. Don't waste George's time." When we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. After days of heavy gloom, the sky over a city had finally cleared into brilliant blue. Willow stood in a corner, dazed and hollow, still unable to accept the outcome, and I, with my arm around Anna, stepped forward, into a brand new sky.